Well, welcome back to the channel, to all the backyarders. All right, so what we're looking at today is that we are going to be doing kick panels. Now, I did this years and years and years ago. Probably damn near 15 years ago, I think, was when I did my first video. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what you need to do, how you prep. In this video, that's what we're going to be talking about. Prep work, basically, is what we're going to be working on. Now, as you can see, this is a Lincoln Continental, needless to say. I've got the bottom side of the dash off, so it makes working on this a breeze. Now, this is not going to be normal. So for you new cars and stuff like that, this will be a little bit more difficult, but basically it's going to follow the same rules as it is in this car here. So the first thing I've got to do is, before I even get started laying tape down or doing anything like that, the very first thing we have to do is we have to figure out what we can fit in the corner. And what I mean by that is that not by just simply, jamming the speaker into the corner here, like I could do here. Actually, I could just shove it right into this corner, and its overall footprint would be pretty relatively small, in comparison, to what, to without it. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be that big. But here's the big but. You need to first figure out your driver and the parameters on the driver, so you know what the volumes that you can put it into, so you can get a accurate mid-bass character. Now, there are a couple of options we could go about with this. Number one, we could simply port this directly to the outside of the car and just let it open baffle, and you could be done with it that way. That, of course, needless to say, has a whole series of issues that come along with it. Those issues would be obviously water coming back in, and how would you stop that? There's been many different ways of doing this. Neoprene, something like this, basically the stuff that scuba suits are made of, is a good way of doing that. You can lay it on there. The other one is you could do what's known as an AP, an aperiodic. And so the idea is that we don't have any backwave information coming back, to the front end of the speaker, or to I should say, the back side of the cone, in a reflective way that is destructive. Basically causes the mid range to be higher pitched than what it would normally be, due to the fact of the reflections coming back off. And that includes stuff like, if you think about this, here, let me take this out of the bag so you can see the driver. Now, this is one of my favorites. That I like to use. This is a silver flute. And the reason why is that, number one, it's just a great overall driver, and the amount of motor force that this thing has is astounding. So when I do stuff like an AP system, this driver is more suited to doing that kind of design than in comparison to a high Q driver, which is very typical of China. And you get this stupid high Q driver with a FO that's like, FO, by the way, is FS. Okay, I grew up with LMS, so I always know it as FO. But FS, so the resonant frequency of the driver, is much higher. Like, you can have an 8, it would be like 37, 40, 45 hertz or something like that. And so what you end up with is a driver that basically wants to play in the mid bass range only, and not much down below that. This driver here has an enormous amount of motor force on it, and because of that, we can do a lot of things with this driver. One of them is AP, and do it very, very well, and it tone balance is amazing. So back to what I was talking about in terms of the overall fit, right? So the fitment here, we have to figure out how to minimize the back wave as best as possible. Now, we can mitigate this with several different ways. We can use jute and line the interior of the enclosure with jute, which helps the destructive back wave a lot, but it doesn't add to dampening. It just simply is an absorbing panel, and that's it. Another way of doing it, excuse me, another way of doing this would also be through position. How we position the driver, in that area, and what's going on. Last one that you can do also is clay. I've clayed the interior panels forever, and that also works real well. So the idea here is to figure out where we're going to put it and how far out we're going to get it, and then also how is it going to look in accordance. See, I want to pick up, like on the dash here, I want to pick up these lines and stuff like that before I do anything else. So I had sat down and played with this for a while. Okay, and this is just a just a template, just to give me an idea of what I can do. And so basically, I figured out that I could fit all the parts in here, and do it. Now this is probably going to come out. I would probably say realistically, I'm going to say she's going to be about like that. Okay, after you figure fiberglass thickness, materials, and everything, will be about in this neighborhood. Now that's not a bad footprint. Now this piece here on the this is the fresh air duct. I'm going to go ahead and remove this because it doesn't technically have to be on here. I'm just going to take it off because the idea is the air comes in and it blows it, down this way. But since I'm going to go ahead and have a big, panel sitting next to it, I might also just use the panel to blow, that way. So that'll take care of that problem. So yeah, so you get an idea of generally what it's, going to look like, pattern-wise and stuff like that. Now, how I'm going to finish off the front is a completely different thing, but for right now, this is where I'm at right now. So let's talk about prep work. Okay, so in my lifetime that I have played with doing this, my two primary go-tos are duct tape and some sort of either blue tape, and now that they have the orange tape, and the orange tape in the 3M has a better adhesive on it, so it works, grips on better. But I usually do duct tape down on the floor, and the reason for it is the adhesive on duct tape is great. Now this stuff here, this Duct Pro stuff, is the bomb. This stuff is like old duct tape, and I mean old duct tape. We're talking like 1980 type duct tape, where it actually sticks. So this stuff is golden in terms of going in there. So these are what it is. Now I've seen other guys, they've done stuff like aluminum. They'll like lay aluminum down in sheets and stuff and get it all down in there. Myself personally, I like the duct tape because I get every defect in the floor and on the wall and stuff like that, because I want my panel to pull tight to the car. I don't want to put it on there and then I have to backfill or something like that on the edges. The other thing that's funny is deading rollers. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that deading rollers are great for doing this particular thing because it helps seal the duct tape together. You push over the seam lines and stuff, and you just push it right into the carpet. And then like if you have a big one, you can just you can make quick work of this by doing this, over, and then like on the sides here, it works out real well. Getting all your tape down flat. So it's not a necessity, but it's just a nice thing to have in terms of use. Just works out better. Scissors. I cannot stress more. Scissors. And of course another scissor, but a straight scissor, in other words, known as a knife. So a knife, scissors, those are going to be your other two friends because you've got a lot of fiberglass to cut, and it's a hell of a lot easier to do it with scissors every time. Needless to say, a Sharpie. A Sharpie is also your friend because you can make marks on the duct tape now, and when you lay up your fiberglass on there, it will transfer to the backside of the fiberglass, so you'll have a line permanent. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to take a laser level and I'm going to put it here in the middle, and the ones that are used for doing drywall and stuff. So it's going to shoot a line that'll go all the way across, and what that's going to help me do is, because I know where the dash line, where the actual dash line's sitting at right now, what I want to do is I want to come down from that dash line probably about a half an inch, but I want to be able to come up with a line that would intersect all the way around at the same level, so that the two kick panels will look like they belong in the car and not two different objects from right to left. So that's another thing. So I'm going to do that laser line there, get everything done there, and then one of the big ones is going to be your mold release. Mold release comes in many different forms. This one here is what's called honey wax. This is from the Stoner Company. No, trust me, I didn't make that up. That's actually the name of the company. So here's the phone number and everything if you want to go look it up. This is absolutely. I've used a lot of mold release in my life. This stuff is amazing. This I've never used mold release that does what this does. It's just amazing to have. So you want this so that you can pull everything off easily. So again, like I said, the basics are, lay everything down. Now, if you look here on the floor, you'll notice, excuse me, I'm moving things around. So you'll see how I've covered a lot. See the floor? See, I've gone into the tape, different tapes and stuff, and I've covered the whole sill plate, and then coming in. There's a reason for this. Whenever you're doing fiberglass, it is a messy situation, okay? You're going to have the fibers themselves are going to dig into that carpet, and I swear to God, sometimes it's almost impossible. It's almost worse than getting wire, when you cut off like a 4-gauge or something like that and it falls into the carpet. Jesus Christ, that's a pain in the ass. So what I do is I build myself a trap, basically, and the idea is that while I'm working, I'm going to have my cup of resin sitting in here, right? So I want to make sure that I can come in and out without any problems. Bring all my, fiberglass. I know how to pre-cut everything. I'm going to cut everything out, pre-sized out and stuff, laid up and stuff, so that I make a really solid lay down, and I'll end up with, like, say, an 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of thickness will be my back wall. I do that on purpose because shrinkage, the one thing this is going to do is because this is on an angle like this, she'll want to shrink. So she'll want to pull in, but because I'm going in a 3, going this way and this way, what's going to happen is that, and then down here is these corners over here want to shrink up. These will come up, and then over here on this flat side, she'll want to lift a little bit. So we have to kind of take into consideration that these are going to happen. And so what I'll do is I'll lay down my first layers, let that dry, or let that cure to a point where it's really lightly tacky, and then I'll start laying down my rest, because what I want to do is I want to try to get that first layer to try to grip on as best as I can to the surface, right? And then that way the shrinkage, when it starts to shrink, it won't pull off that surface. It'll hold as best as possible, and that gives us at least time to lay in the board, in here, and get everything locked up and closed up before it just starts shrinking like crazy. Now I'm using a polyester. I'm not doing an epoxy. You can do epoxies. You can do polyesters. Epoxies are a better choice, but they are some more expensive choice. Epoxies yield less shrinkage, but you can get polyesters in a relatively short, very, very, what am I thinking of? Less, oh my God. Sorry, guys. I apologize for that one. That's a total brain fart on my side. I want less shrinkage, happening due to the fact of the polyester. And so what you get is what's called moldable. It's a set for making molds and stuff like that. And it has a smaller value of shrink in comparison to just the cheap stuff. Like, say, if you go to Home Depot and you get the cheap stuff from Home Depot, man, it'll try to turn itself over on itself. That's how bad that stuff is. So, polyester materials are going to be important. Layout, okay? And as you can see, I've laid out this thing, and it looks like I've gone way overboard in terms of how far out and everything. And trust me, after decades and decades of doing this, I can tell you that you'll want to do this, because you will get shit over here. When you get fiberglass into your carpet, the resin itself, you hate your life. You're trying to take acetone, you're trying to get whatever you can in there, and you end up screwing up the fibers. So precautionary tale, put as much tape down as you possibly can, and be paranoid. So, I just like to do this because I don't want my customers' cars to get all screwed up, even though this is an old vehicle and stuff like that. And we haven't done all the restorations on the inside, as you can see. The interior has not, been done yet. But here I'm doing the kicks first so that we can start pulling all the rest of the car together. So, anyway, I'm sorry this has gone long. But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about the basics of what you need before you even get started, is plan. Trust me when I tell you that. It can't be easier to do. If you just go in here and just boom, just try it and stuff like that, you end up backtracking too many times. So duct tape, some sort of 3M tape, and I mean 3M tape, not that cheap garbage that's out there. If you can, a roller would be good. Definitely scissors, definitely a knife, and lots of backbone, because this took, I think I spent the last hour just doing this, just getting everything prepped and ready to go. So, but until then, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I'll have it all laid out. I'm gonna try to do pre-work in terms of showing this. Maybe set my phone up to somehow record me doing that side, because that side's a lot easier than this side is. Just because I'm right-handed, it's easier for me to sit in that car and do it that way. So here it's a little harder. But anyway, that's that for now. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow.